Good afternoon. We are so glad to be here this Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025, for the FNF committee meeting. It is now 2:01 p.m. We are meeting at the Stevenson Administration Building, 1616 Richland Street, Columbia, South Carolina, 29201 in room 102. I have with me members of the cabinet, and we also have Commissioner Moore here as well.
Yes, ma'am.
And pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, all persons, organizations, and media outlets as requested have been notified of the time, date, place, and agenda of this meeting. We have an information item number 2.1. ELC update presentation by Mr. Grant. And Superintendent, I'll ask you if you have anything else before we get started.
Thank you, Committee Chair, Weston, Dr. Moore. We have a different format that we're approaching this work in. It's going to be more of updates on Big Rock things that we have coming up in the district relevant to the committee structure. So today we have an early learning update from Mr. Grant. So I'll let him take over from here.
Thank you. Mr. Grant.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good
Dr.
afternoon.
Walker, Ms. Rivers. We have an update to present to you with the regarding the Early Learning Center. The items that we're going to go through is we're going to talk about the actions since the vertical construction contract was terminated, current and future work on site, expenditures to date, future expenditures, and then just a general timeline of the finalization of the work that's going on there. So since the contract was terminated, which was March 21st, 2025, we terminated the vertical construction, and that's just the way of saying that we are still working through the site stabilization and any of the planning for the demo and all that, but vertical construction meaning anything that we're building up from the ground, that's what we terminated. So that was March 21st, 2025. What has been ongoing is that we've had monthly planning and review meetings with our construction manager, the architect, engineers, county building officials, and inspectors as we've worked to develop the demo plans as well as that final site stabilization plan, meaning what is the site going to look like once we've gotten everything cleared off of the land. On August 8th, the demolition permit was issued by Richland County, and so on August 11th, that demo work began with Contract Construction, our construction manager doing that work, and they are working that for the next few weeks. They should be finished up with clearing everything off of there, and then the regrading of the land, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, is what is currently working. And then ongoing is going to be the site stabilization. So making sure that any work that's done, that anything that we need to do to make sure that water runoff is properly going into the ponds and into the proper channels is still continuing. And then also still ongoing is that final site stabilization, and that work is being done with the engineers and making sure that everything they have to coordinate with some other agencies to get that final stabilization plan completed. So that's where we are since that contract termination over the last few months.
Mr. Grant, excuse me. How would you like us to ask questions after your presentation or stop you in the midst?
Yeah, if you would, Committee Chair, if you would just take questions down,
Okay.
and then at the end, we can go back to any slides. Yeah,
All right, thank you.
and we'll keep track of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, the current and future work on site, most of this is going to be current until I get to the very last one, which is the demolition and removal of all vertically constructed material, meaning the walls, the concrete slab, anything that was up out of the ground, they've removed it and taken that out of there. And now they're working on the grading of the site and getting everything back to being able to plant whatever that final site stabilization plan will call for, whether it's trees, grasses, all the different things that will go on there. The site stabilization efforts that are ongoing, we have retention ponds, and so they continue to maintain those and make sure that they're holding water correctly and that the water's outflow is accurate as to what the engineers had planned for. And then any of the related materials. So we've got skimmers, we've got riprap that goes around the property, and we've got some different things. So they're making sure all of that is being upkept. There's vegetation maintenance, which includes mowing where there needs to be, and then dealing with trees. For instance, in the kind of in the buffer zone between our property and the neighborhood, there were some trees that the neighbors were concerned about. So we worked with them to bring in a vendor to take down a few of the trees that they had some concerns with as part of that. One of the things one of the big things is the installation of a berm, which is up next to where the building would have been constructed. That was part of the final stage of the construction plan, but obviously because of where we're at, they've gone ahead and they put that berm in, and they're working through making sure that that is in there. And it's basically just another opportunity to keep water onto the site. And then the final site stabilization plan is still under design. And that work will begin when all the parties, meaning engineers and everybody involved in that, can agree to what that final stabilization plan will look like. That, as you'll see in a minute, I don't have a timeline on that specific item, but it is ongoing and continuous. To review our expenditures to date, there was a $31 million funded project in Capital Projects 46050. There was also a $600,000 project that was funded as part of the initial mobilization to get the site ready, and that was Project 25135. So to date, approximately $7.77 million has been spent, and those costs include, of course, construction, the architectural and engineering costs, third-party inspections, which continue as long as the project continues, site stabilization, which has been an ongoing effort. Environmental testing was done at the very beginning of the project, where they have to go in and test some of the ground to make sure that it's okay to put a facility on there. So that was a kind of a one-time at the very front end. And then, of course, security costs have been rolled into our security budget that we had been working with, and that's the overnight security we had at the site, which we're not doing as much of at this point because of the ongoing construction at the site. So we don't have, and when I say not as much, the daytime security is not there because it's an active site during the day, so we don't need security sitting over there during the daytime. Some future expenditures that we will be looking at are the demolition and removal of the materials, the architectural and engineering design work, that's the A&E, and then the design of the final site stabilization. And between the different groups that have to be a part of that, the estimates are right around $865,000 for that, and that's the ongoing work. Normally, you have a final total before you start the work, but because some of this work is an ongoing, we don't have an exact amount. For instance, we had planned for chain link fencing to go around the complete exterior of the project. Once completed, the county has said that we can't do the chain link fence that we were initially intending. So now we're going to have to go through and figure out what exactly that final fencing is going to look like. So that may add some we'll probably add additional costs because it won't be as inexpensive as the chain link fencing would be. And then, of course, if there's any damages for termination of the contract, and that was unknown until the district and our vendors reach kind of a final agreement regarding that. All right, and then just a general timeline to close out the site project. So we anticipate by the end of September that they'll complete the demolition and removal of all the materials, and the site grading will all be completed. And then they'll start with the planting of whatever the final vegetation will be that will be on that site. And then ongoing, this is the one item that I can't give you an exact timeline on, is that final site stabilization, because there are multiple groups that have to review and make sure that that plan is feasible, with final authority given to Richland County being the one that would issue that final permit for that site stabilization. And then ongoing also has been the review and inspection by Richland County. They're out there every week or two to make sure the site is performing as it's supposed to, as well as our third-party inspector. And in fact, I think last Friday, both parties were out there at the same time, so it made for a good opportunity for them to walk the site together and be able to talk through any issues or concerns as they're both looking at the site. And then, of course, once everything is completed, then we will have our final invoices and payments and close the entire project out. While I would love to give you an exact date, we believe it will be this fall, but I can't tell you exactly when that would be because it's all contingent on that final site stabilization plan being approved by the county and then all of that work being done that is associated with that. And now it's time for questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Grant. Appreciate that. Questions?
Let me think just a minute. All right, you talked about the chain link fencing and not being allowed to, what are the possibilities for that? And what are our responsibilities for?
It would be a fence.
Okay,
It's just a matter of whether it's going to be a chain link fence or a fence that has, I guess, more decorative in nature. Would that be kind of what your understanding might be from?
Yes, sir. Good evening, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
There are some specific guidelines set forth in Richland County Development ordinances as to when you can use a chain link fence and when you cannot. So there are some specific materials called out in that ordinance. So we are going back to speak with the county about some other creative options. So at this point, we'll let you know.
okay. Do we have responsibility? I mean, I know we're talking about the entire area, but then is there additional barriers that we have to put up for retention ponds and that kind of thing, or is that
Inclusive.
inclusive?
We're hoping that the chain link fencing around those would be acceptable.
Okay, all right. And then what are our security? Once all the stabilization is finished and we're no longer doing, what are our obligations from that point as far as security is concerned of the area? I mean, would it just be,
It would be a property that Walden Security, our new contractor, would use as a touch point. So they would go by
okay,
and add it in as they do their rounds for the schools in the area. They would just add that as a touch point that they're going by and making sure. And then during the daytime, if any of our folks are out and about, they may stop in just to check and make sure that everything looks good there. Yeah.
That's going back to the chain link fence. Once it is completed and you may have something around the ponds, would we still need security, the night security, or it's just be the touch point as you spoke of?
Correct. It would just be that.
And how are the surrounding neighborhoods doing now with the trees being cut and the water when it rains? Are they okay? Have they been checked on? Do we know?
Yeah, every time that there's a heavy rain, which for the last 2 weeks, there has been no rain, but you know that the prior 3 weeks to that, I think it rained.
Exactly.
It seemed like an inch every night is what it felt like. But each day, our project manager will go out there and check and make sure that the ponds are functioning as they're supposed to. And then like the issue with the trees and that buffer zone in between the two properties, they had some concerns. So we were able to work with them to remove those trees and have those taken down.
I know that they had spoken about the fact that they were weakening because of the rain and they didn't want them to fall on their homes and et cetera. That's a part of that.
Yeah, I don't know if the rain was weakening the trees
Okay.
because it's been raining on that property for forever. I mean, it didn't just start raining there, so it is. But they did have concerns, so we worked with them on their concerns.
And I think the question would be whether the excavation work that was done had weakened the foundation.
foundation.
So, but, it sounds like we've addressed it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. And August 8th, what was the delay with the demolition permit from Richland County? Because we had voted on it in March.
Right, there was not a delay. It was the planning and getting everything ready and getting all of the planning done for it, and then the timelines and the drawings that had to accompany it. So it was not that it was delayed, it was right in time as we were working through it with all the entities.
Okay. Has there been any consideration for making it a green space there instead of, so that we wouldn't have to surround it with fencing and all of the like?
We have not done any planning for future usage of it, but we do have an obligation because of the retention ponds being there, that there is going to have to be fencing because of those retention ponds.
Okay. In your planning, if you will consider, I know that we're out in the country, and I say we because that is a lower Richland area. It's not quite as low as I am, but it's lower. And if the surrounding schools, because I know Kaufman Road is up the street, Burnside is close, Millwood, all of those schools and Lower Richland, if they don't have places that they could have the students, whether it's a club or some other activity, that they could go and plant things and have things to take home and eat from the ground kind of issues, please make that a consideration if possible when you're thinking through it. And you said this fall that we should be complete with that. If there are any funds left over, will they be returned to the general fund? Or how would that work?
In the past, once we
It's
earmarked,
Mike.
oh, sorry. Good afternoon.
Yes, ma'am.
In the past, once we earmarked general fund money for capital projects and we transferred those funds over, it remained in the capital project funds.
Okay. The reason I'm asking, I asked the question when that project was started, was the fact that we were using K-12 funds for something that was not K-12 in the planning. And so I had concerns about that at the time. The concerns grew. And so my thing is, do we get an opportunity to vote it back from capital funds back into general funds based on the fact that it was a concern when the project first started?
Yes, ma'am. The board always have the
Option.
right to move it back to the general fund.
Okay. That was mine. You have any? Yes.
One other thing, will there be any ongoing environmental kind of testing stuff that we would have to do with this property, or that you mentioned that we did it at the beginning and took care of that part? Is there anything else we're obligated for?
No, depending on the future usage of the site, based on what the board decides that you all would like to do with that site, there could be testing needed for whatever that future usage, but we're not obligated to just continually test the soil or anything
Yeah, okay.
to maintain it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the update so very much, and look forward to anything else we can do so that we can be inform the community, because they have been really interested. They call, email, text whenever anything's going on there, whether the gate is open, the grass needs cutting, anything else. They are definitely on it, and they will send you pictures to let you know exactly what they're talking about. So truly appreciate this update, and we look forward to finishing up with all of that. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, all right. There being none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we will consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you very much.